All right, very good. Well, welcome everyone. This is the Washtenaw County Democratic Party's School Board Candidate Panel. My name is Jessica Kelly. I am a parent to 3 AAPS students and graduates. I'm an attorney who serves many AAPS families. I'm a former chair of the Ann Arbor Democratic Party, and I served as an AAPS Board of Education trustee from 2016 to 2022. Tonight, I am volunteering as the moderator for this candidate panel, and I'm grateful to the WCDP for the opportunity to do so. I also want to extend my gratitude to the folks who have stepped up to serve in this role. WCDP invited all candidates to tonight's panel without regard to any political affiliation of the candidates themselves. And I believe we've got an excellent turnout tonight. Tonight, it is a panel for an extraordinary election for the Ann Arbor School Board. 5 of the 7 seats are on the ballot. 4 of the candidates selected by voters in November will serve 4-year terms. There are 9 candidates for those seats. 1 candidate selected will serve a partial term ending in December of 2028. There are 3 candidates running for that seat. That means tonight we will have up to 12 candidates, and we've had to structure this forum accordingly. So let me run through the logistics. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and give an opening statement. 2 minutes to answer each of 3 questions, and 1 minute to give a closing statement. For each segment, candidates will be selected randomly to give their response. The questions have been provided to the candidates ahead of time. The topics were chosen and the questions were formed with members of the community and cover the 3 essential functions of a school board: to hire, evaluate, and if necessary, separate from the superintendent, to adopt and balance the district's budget, and to set district policy. Eli is going to keep our time tonight. You will see a green timer in the top left corner of his screen when the timer starts. I don't believe it's there right now. You will hear a single bell when there is 30 seconds remaining in the 2-minute window. You will hear a double bell when the time is up. You may finish your sentence, but please stick to those timelines so that we can end at an appropriate time tonight. The video that we're doing tonight will be recorded and it will be available tomorrow. We're going to talk about where to find that here at the end of our meeting. In order to keep the recording as clean as possible, we are asking for everyone who's not speaking to stay muted. And then for people who are not part of the candidate field themselves, if you'll also turn off your camera, it will help those who have cameras on, the candidates, to stay at the top of screen number 1. That'll help us with our recording, so thank you for that. Do any of the candidates have any questions? Very good. And then a quick roll call. I'm going to go through my bowl just to make sure we've got everybody accounted for. We have Carolyn.
Here.
Jennifer.
Here.
Brandon.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
Kevin. Okay, I'm going to set him aside. Don.
Present.
Becca.
Hi there.
Aaron.
Here.
John.
Here.
Rima.
Here.
Lyndon.
Here.
And Andy.
Here.
Very good. Sounds like everybody's mics are working too. All right. If Kevin does join us, Eli, if you'll keep an eye out for him and just flag me, I'll add his name back into our bowl for the random selections.
Sure.
And so with that, we will begin with opening statements. I'll randomly select Don Wilkerson to go first, and Becca will be on deck. Eli's going to begin the timer, and Don, when you're ready, please give us your 2-minute introduction.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. I'm Don Wilkerson. I'm a proud father of 4 in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. 2 graduates that went through STEAM, Northside and Clay, and Skyline, and 5-year-old twins that are starting Young Fives this fall. I understand firsthand what it takes to make our schools special and what it takes to keep them strong. As a citizen of the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians, I bring a perspective shaped by my community's values of education, stewardship, service, and looking for the next 7 generations. It's part of why mentorship and advocacy for diverse perspectives matter so much to me. Every student deserves to see themselves reflected and supported in our schools. I hold a Master's of Accounting and Bachelor's of Business from the Ross School of Business, and I work in the audit and compliance space, holding 3 different financial certifications. I've also completed 100 educational credit hours through the Michigan Association of School Boards, earning the Level 2 Award of Merit and the School Finance Certification Specialty Award. For the last 15 years, I've shown up for AAPS as a classroom volunteer, science Olympiad and Rec and Ed coach, Rick Deacon's Cross Country Kids Program Director, PTO and PTO Council board member, board director for a nonprofit supporting families with special education advocacy needs and leading multiple millage campaigns. I also served on the AAPS Board of Education as treasurer and trustee. I'm running to help bring additional financial stability to our schools. That's imperative for our future. We need a board that brings people together. Financial stability that supports a competitive salary schedule for our teachers amid ongoing contract negotiations. A shared strategic vision built with real community input on priorities like screens in the classrooms and the future of our programming. And transparency so every family understands the choices we have ahead. I'm looking forward to being here tonight, sharing my perspective, and I hope to continue the work that I've started. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I'm noticing that the timer now only shows up for me in the top right corner of the screen. So if that is true for everybody else, we didn't lose it, it just moved. But I did hear the bell just fine. So again, thank you, Don. Becca is next, and on deck we have Erin. Becca, when you're ready.
Thank you so much to the Washtenaw Dems for this opportunity. My name is Becca Hogan, and my pronouns are she, her. It has been 224 days since our teachers have had a working contract. That is completely unacceptable because our educators are the heart of our community, and that's why I'm running for the Board of Ed. I'm a parent of 3 kids who attend a Title I school here in the district, and I've earned the endorsement of the Ann Arbor Education Association, the teachers union, because of my 20 years of experience in education advocacy. Because our district is in financial peril, I'd like to share how I'll be an asset to the board to handle financial decisions and budgeting. From my master's in public administration and policy analysis, I'll bring a keen eye to policy decisions. From my time at OpenGov, a company that builds software for government financial transparency, I'll bring those practices to the district. And I've spent the last several years advocating with the Michigan Education Justice Coalition at the state level for increases to the state school aid fund, and I'll keep on fighting for more resources for our schools. Through my deep relationship building and my ability to explain complex information to others, I will be an immense asset to the board. But this campaign isn't just about me. Our campaign is building a movement to value our educators, practice principled, transparent spending, and strengthen our community. Given all we've seen lately across the community, such as rallies of over 1,000 people in support of our educators, I am deeply hopeful in the future of AAPS, and I look forward to working with my colleagues for positive change in the district. And I hope I earn the endorsement of the Washtenaw County Democratic Party to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Becca. Erin will be going next, and John is on deck. Go ahead, Erin.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Aaron J. Puno, and I am very grateful to be an Ann Arbor Education Association endorsed candidate for Ann Arbor School Board. I spent 13 happy years in this district. I went to Bryant, I went to Pattengill, I went to Tappan, I went to Community, and I went to Pioneer, where I graduated with honors in 2023. I'm in this race because I got a hell of a world-class education in this district, and I want to ensure that that world-class education is a fulfilled birthright for all of our kids and not a dream deferred. I'm in this race because 13 years worth of Ann Arbor teachers always had my back, and it's about time that the school board did the same for them. They have been criminally underpaid for years, and I have seen the faces of these bright, everyday heroes grow ever more dim at the prospect of taking home a paycheck worth less and less due to inflation, due to pay freezes, and even enduring cuts. I'm in this because I believe in a more transparent way of governing this district. I want to end the culture of secrecy, and I want to stop the impulse of wanting to sell the public on an idea and not trying to work with the public to implement that idea. And of course, I want to bring to this board the perspective of a young person who has been personally affected by the poor decision making of previous school boards, a young person who wants to ensure that the education of the kids who come after me will be much better than the top-notch education I got. So, I'd like to thank WCDP for putting this forum together. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out and getting involved. I'd like to thank my fellow candidates. And with your help, we're going to win in November. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. John will be going next, and on deck is Rima. Go ahead, John.
Hello, I'm John Benson. I have 3 young kids who will be in Ann Arbor Public Schools in the next 15 years. My wife is also a teacher, a master's degree with special education certification. We love Ann Arbor, especially the people, families, and staff of the AAPS. I'm currently a senior manager at a $60 billion pension, serving 600,000 union auto worker retirees or medical benefits. I began studying AAPS finances and review processes after hearing troubling headlines about uneven financial oversight and significant teacher dissatisfaction. I shared some analysis and thoughts with a few parent groups, and that has grown into broad community engagement to formally run for school board. I am told and believe I can bring some new analytic perspectives to the AAPS budget and financial picture. I was raised by sociology PhDs, but I am a 25-year professional of finance and governance. This background mix has helped me solve structural, financial, and transparency issues for many different businesses and especially a variety of stakeholders. I work with global teams with a wide array of cultural and language and religious backgrounds. I pride myself on understanding progress requires collaboration across all the backgrounds. I enjoy helping colleagues feel more empowered by making financial and budgeting pictures clear. Then more time can be spent on the critical directives of the organization, which for the AAPS Board of Education are the educations of Ann Arbor children, including 3 of my own. People who see me in public board meeting comments where I usually discuss mismatch in revenue growth versus teacher compensation, and then meet with me, they know I use my heart and my skill to try and share an equitable financial path forward that maintains critical services while paying fairly our teachers and other direct-to-pupil staff. I am proud to say I've been endorsed by the Ann Arbor Education Association, the teacher union. I believe the Democratic Party needs to continue finding people in its community that can be genuinely collaborative, fearlessly inclusive, and exceptional in big picture finance and budget dialogue. I think I deliver in all these areas. I'm grateful for this opportunity for the Washtenaw County Democrat endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we have Rima, and on deck is Lyndon. Go ahead, Rima.
So thank you, WCDP, for hosting this important forum. I am Rima Mohammed. I am running for re-election for the Ann Arbor Public School Board because I believe deeply in the power of public education and our responsibility to strengthen it for future generations. Public schools changed the trajectory of my life. As a child refugee, an English learner who experienced poverty, racism, barriers to opportunity, I know what it means for educators to see your potential and believe in you. My teachers were my saviors. They gave me the support and opportunities that helped shape me into an educator, professor, pharmacist, researcher, parent, and community leader. That lived experience gives me a unique perspective on the board. I understand the challenges students and families face, why my professional experiences taught me the importance of evidence research, data-driven decisions. As an AAPS trustee, including serving as board president and vice president, I've led through some of our district's most challenging moments with transparency, accountability, compassion, and courage. I fought to support our educators, our staff, expand student support, strengthen community engagement, and put students in classrooms first. As a current AAPS parent, I also understand the challenges families face when children need special education and mental health supports. My priorities are clear: responsible leadership, financial accountability, student success, equity, and opportunity, and supporting our educators, families, and community and school communities. I am running again because the work is not finished. Bring lived experience, professional expertise, and a proven track record of leadership. I am ready to keep fighting for our schools, our students, educators, and families for the schools that they deserve. Thank you so much, and I appreciate being here.
Thank you, Rima. Next, we have Lyndon, and on deck is Andy. Go ahead, Lyndon.
Thank you all for being here. I am Lyndon Dibble. I attended AAPS schools and experienced administrative mistakes from inside the classroom. I attended Burns Park, Tappan, and Pioneer, participating in our band program for 8 of those years. AAPS afforded me an excellent education, and I am now attending U of M to study education at the Marsall School and public policy at Ford, an opportunity that not all students are granted. My mother works in public schools, and my brother is still a student inside of AAPS. I am running because AAPS has a responsibility to our students, and we must place our students first in every decision we make. AAPS is facing a variety of challenges, and I believe I am most capable of tackling them in a way that takes into account all perspectives inside of AAPS. I am the candidate with the most recent student experience. I know what challenges our current students are facing because I face them. AI in the classroom, falling literacy rates, and teacher distrust in district leadership, along with many others. We must treat our teachers with respect. I am running to restore the 80-20 healthcare split to our teachers, reduce our current reliance on device use, and improve transparency from district leadership. I am excited to work with all members of the AAPS community, students, teachers, and parents to ensure all students and teachers are respected in the classroom and we uphold equality and equity in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Lyndon. Next, we have Andy, and on deck will be Carolyn.
Hi, everybody. My name is Andy Spencer. Thank you to the Washtenaw County Democratic Party for putting this on, and to all those volunteering to spend time to establish this opportunity for people to hear from us. I want the Democrats in our county to know that they can count on me to share their values. And I've been at several of the meetings, and I know that together the Democrats in our county are going to have the values that are shared among people that are teaching, learning, and being educated in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. I'm a teacher's kid. I was raised by 2 teachers. My mom and dad were teachers on the west side of the state, and my dad served as the lead union negotiator when he was a teacher at Rockford High School. They since went on to spend their entire careers in public education, as did my brother, who taught emotionally impaired kids for many years and is now a superintendent on the west side of the state. So when you add up all the years that my family and I have spent as teachers, students, administrators inside public schools, we've spent about 140 years together in Michigan public schools. And so dinner table conversations were always focused on how things were going at school for the kids, how things were going at the public schools for the teacher, parents, and so on. So I really bring what I think is a very public school focused point of view to the board. My wife and I have 2 sons, one of whom is a Pioneer High School graduate, and one of whom is a current student at Pioneer High School. My educational background includes a bachelor's degree in chemistry and a PhD in biochemistry. My career has been focused on the discovery of innovative medicines, so I'm very much a scientific focused person. That means I use data to make decisions, and I pledge to do that on the board. And then finally, from a finance point of view, my day job gives me a lot of financial planning and analysis experience, and I also serve on the Finance and Audit Committee of the Endocrine Society. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing people on Saturday.
Thank you, Andy. Our next introduction is from Carolyn, and Kelly will be on deck. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Thank you. I am Carolyn Siebers, and I'm running for the Ann Arbor School Board to bring stronger and clearer public participation into our district's academic, fiscal, and labor relations issues. As a math teacher, my focus is solving problems. I taught at Community High and Byron area schools, was a principal at Pioneer High and South Redford-Thurston, and served as a professional development leader for K-12 teachers across Wayne County. I have MA and BA degrees from U of M and a PhD in school leadership and policy studies from Wayne State. My priorities are focus on students, support teachers, and build a sustainable budget. We must refocus on student learning. Ann Arbor has experienced a drop in performance starting before the pandemic, a 20% decline in high school math college readiness, and drops in 3/8 proficiency, despite higher spending. We should re-examine the balance of digital instruction based on research showing students comprehend and retain complex information better with print and teacher interaction. Top-down decisions have displaced collaboration with teachers and parents, deflating staff morale and creating a contract crisis. Great teachers are the key to great education. We must recruit and retain top talent and restore collaboration throughout the system. The accumulating impact of stagnating state funding, declining enrollments, and inflating base operation costs were ultimately revealed in the $25 million shortfall, shocking the public and leaving them seeking answers. Teachers, the board, parents, students, city leaders, and underrepresented voices must work together transparently to navigate these complex and challenging financial realities. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. We'll now hear from Kelly, and Brandon will be on deck. Go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry about that. Hi, my name is Kelly, and I am running for Ann Arbor School Board. I am a mom of 3 in the district. I have 3 young children, and I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner. I'll be very honest, I was a little bit tentative about being here tonight because I know it can be really hard for all of our messages not to get lost in kind of this big group. So I'm hoping that I can kind of set myself apart tonight. My work that I've done as a pediatric nurse practitioner, I think really applies to being a school board member. I've spent my entire career taking care of children and families, and the skills that I've learned as a healthcare professional will translate to a board role. I am ready to take care of children and families on a larger scale in a bigger system. And after looking, more closely at the challenges that our community is facing and our schools are facing right now, I really want to be part of that solution. And I am willing to make the hard decisions. I know there's going to be very hard decisions that are going to be coming up, and I'm willing to make those decisions. But those decisions will be informed, they'll be transparent, they'll be fiscally responsible, and shaped by the people that they affect. I understand that a board member represents the entire community and not just myself. And I believe that AAPS can be a district that families want to actively choose because right now morale is low. And I want to be I want to help our district be one that others look to an example of. And I think that starts with a high functioning school board. And that's a school board that works together as a team. It's a school board that, makes decisions transparently, holds each other accountable, and pays attention to where every dollar is being spent. And I won't support something because it's simply been done before. I think it's very important that we are asking our educators that, where the money that we're spending, is it being used well? Is it helping them in the classroom? Because ultimately, a high functioning school board is going to mean that we have good outcomes for our students. And that is really important. So I will do the work that needs to be done here. I promise to hold myself accountable and be visible in this community. I really believe in public education for all. We all have stories of teachers that have affected our lives and impacted us. And, right now, the most important thing is getting a contract settled for our teachers to help improve morale. And so therefore, I really believe in Ann Arbor. I believe in this community, and I'd be really honored to earn your vote.
Thank you, Kelly. Next up, we have Brandon, and then Jennifer will bring us home. Go ahead, Brandon.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brandon Smith, and I am honored to be one of the candidates endorsed by the Ann Arbor Education Association. I want to thank the Washtenaw County Democratic Party, Jessica, Eli, everybody who participated in getting tonight up and going. It's so great to hear from everybody and being able to interact with the community. When I think about the parts of my identity that brought me to run for school board, they kind of fit into three categories. The first is that of a parent. My 4-year-old daughter, Sadie, who it's bath time right behind me, so if you hear her screaming, that's why. She is going into her last year of preschool, and then we will be going through the Carpenter Scarlet Huron route. And I want to help make Ann Arbor schools the amazing district I know it can be, not only for my child, but for all the children in the community. Additionally, I'm a teacher. I am a government and history teacher at Saline High School, so just outside of Ann Arbor. I also serve as the vice president of the Saline Education Association, the teachers union. That has afforded me the opportunity to work on negotiating these contracts. I've negotiated our past contracts. To me, these concepts aren't theoretical ideas. They're actually practical things that I put into practice every single day in the classroom. And then finally, an advocate. I have had the opportunity to serve on the Washtenaw County Education Association governing board, and additionally, I serve on Governor Whitmer's Educator Advisory Council, giving me sort of a statewide perspective on these education issues. There are a lot of things that Ann Arbor needs to fix, from the teacher's contract to phone issues to AI things. A lot of conversations are going to be happening in the next 12 months. This isn't something that 7 people can fix. This is something that's going to take the entire community rallying together. I don't promise to have all the answers. In fact, I probably will have none of them. But I promise to ask the questions, I promise to listen, and I promise to collaborate with all of the different groups, whether it's ESP, teachers unions, communities, parents, administration, to get this right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Our last introduction will be given by Jennifer. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Oldham, mom to 3 AAPS students currently in elementary, middle, and high school. I've been home with my kids for over a decade, and during this time, I developed a deep and sustained interest in Michigan's uniquely restrictive school funding system and the history of Ann Arbor Public Schools. I have 3 goals that I call my 3 T's. They are treat teachers well, teachers over technology, and talk with Ann Arbor. When I say treat teachers well, I mean that we need to treat teachers with respect and include their perspectives in how we organize and run our schools. Funding may be scarce, but we can persevere if we choose to embrace collaboration, transparency, and community with our educators. Teachers over technology. Human children learn best from human teachers. We need to rethink how we deploy technology so that our classrooms center on the relationships between students and their teachers and minimize unnecessary distractions to the learning process. Lastly, talk with Ann Arbor. In the past, AAPS met challenges with robust community engagement, and it welcomed local expertise. With the pandemic era behind us, we must re-engage our community and reestablish these lines of communication so that we may solve the problems we face together. Today, AAPS faces a moment of significant restructuring without clear channels of communication between the faculty and administrative leadership, and without effective public engagement. I grieve the loss of the well-oiled school district Ann Arbor once had. I celebrate the teachers and school communities that have endured hardships and broken promises. I know that together we have the wisdom, experience, and expertise to meet this moment and evolve into a district that is both financially stable and prioritizes excellence in education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. This is an expert field of candidates because I didn't hear a bell once. We might be having a little glitch with that audio, but every single candidate kept to their time. So clearly well prepared, and I hope that continues on into our questions. So we will now hear candidate responses to our first question, again through random order. So if you went first last time, I can't promise you're going first this time. The bowl will decide. So the first question. A school board has one direct employee, the superintendent. What specific benchmarks would you use to evaluate the superintendent's performance? And what would cause you to gain or lose confidence in that leadership? I will repeat that question as many times as candidates need. So please, if you need to hear it again when it's your turn, just say so. Happy to read it again. So our first response will come from Brandon. And Andy is on deck. Brandon, go ahead.
Thank you so much for that question. Yeah, I think there's a common misconception with school boards about their role in terms of dealing with every single employee. And at the end of the day, that's exactly right, is that you have one employee, which is the superintendent. The evaluation system and the evaluation rubric that the MASB gives a lot of different criteria that can be used. But I think when we are looking at overall general things that are most important, I think we have to look at student achievement. Student achievement can be broadly defined, and that can be things like literacy, it could be things like grades, graduation rates. But when doing so, we have to be cognizant of the fact that we are looking at all demographics and not just selecting certain groups and looking at student achievement for that. Fiscal stewardship has to be part of the conversation. While the superintendent doesn't deal with every single part of the budget, they are the leader of that. So fiscal stewardship has to be a part of that evaluation conversation. But at the end of the day, what we're really looking for is culture and community trust. Culture within the district. Do staff feel good to work here? Do students enjoy coming here? Do parents want to send their kids here? Does the community feel as though the superintendent has their best interests in mind? While those things are sort of hard to define and not necessarily quantitative, using the MASB rubric can help us get to a lot of that. When I think about things that would help build my confidence in that, I look for transparency. I look for somebody who is not afraid to give all of the information because they know what they are doing is right for both students and staff. When I think about things that would cause me to lose confidence, it's consistent surprises, it's lack of communication, it's lack of transparency. We all are in this together. And when we are all rowing in the same direction, those things like student achievement, fiscal stewardship, culture, and community should come right along. And that's what we should look for in a high level superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Andy will give his answer. Carolyn is on deck, and we had a participant have a very good idea to paste that question into the chat page. So if anybody needs to see it in text, please open up your chat box. It will appear there. And if anyone would like to hear it from me again, please say so. Otherwise, Andy, go ahead.
Thanks, Jessica. This is an easy question for me, at least in my own mind, because I have a father and brother that I mentioned that have both served as superintendents for many years in Michigan. And so, the superintendent of Ann Arbor Public Schools needs to be able to move the district forward across many axes through many different ways. Student growth and achievement is primary. That is the primary thing. The specific benchmarks I would look to beyond what is required in any superintendent evaluation by statute and by policy is that she should be visible, accessible, credible, and accountable. It boils down to these 5 things that are probably part of the path that she and other superintendents know as part of their evaluation every single year. And those include the governance and board relations, very importantly, community relations and staff relations. There's, of course, a huge business and finance piece of it, and instructional leadership. And so those are the 5 main areas that I would look to. And whether or not I gain or lose confidence in a particular superintendent will have to be a judgment call based on the totality of the superintendent's ability to move the district forward on all these axes. So I think that's a judgment call. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to get into hypotheticals of if A, B, or C happened, I would lose confidence, and if D, E, or F, I would gain confidence. But overall, those 5 areas are the ones I would keep top of mind. Thank you.
Andy, that was the 30-second mark. Did you have anything left? I'm sorry, that might have been confusing.
No, that's okay. I'm happy to pass it on.
Very good. Well, thank you for that response. Carolyn will go next, and
Okay.
Rima is on deck. Go ahead.
I'll take it. Michigan law dictates how public school administrators are evaluated. Any new tool we adopt must meet legal standards. Right now, Ann Arbor evaluates its superintendent using a standard Michigan Association of School Boards 3-point rubric, rating behaviors as not present, sometimes present, or consistently present. Frankly, that type of generic checklist fails to highlight real strengths or pinpoint specific weaknesses. We need a more descriptive model built on explicit performance goals developed collaboratively between the board and the superintendent. At the beginning of the evaluation cycle, specific concerns are identified and the board and superintendent set performance goals. Meaningful benchmarks measure concrete progress, such as clear academic gains for every student group, visible through disaggregated data on test scores, advanced class enrollment, Algebra 1 completion prior to high school, grades, and graduation rates. Stronger survey feedback from the community and all staff roles, including teachers, office staff, paraprofessionals, tech personnel, and central administrators. Lower staff turnover rates across the district. Fewer long-term substitutes. Better, more comprehensive data reporting delivered directly to the board. Stronger student attendance figures. A healthier growing district fund balance. Improvements in such benchmarks can help the school board decide if the superintendent's leadership is succeeding in moving the district forward. Based upon such data, the board can better evaluate superintendent growth or lack thereof. A persistent lack of progress toward these mutually established benchmarks serves as a clear, objective indicator of a loss of confidence in the superintendent's leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Next, we have Rima, and on deck is Kelly. Go ahead, Rima.
So having served on the board through an evaluation, hiring, transition of superintendents, I believe the superintendent should be evaluated against clear, measurable goals, not personalities or politics. My benchmark would focus on 4 areas. First, student success and opportunity. So progress in literacy and math, closing achievement opportunity gaps, outcomes for special education, marginalized and multilingual students, looking at attendance and student well-being. Second, fiscal responsibility, a sustainable budget, accurate, transparent financial reporting, and protecting our classrooms. Third, organizational leadership, supporting and retaining teachers and staff, building trust, and effectively implementing board policy. And fourth, transparency and community engagement, ensuring students, families, educators, and the community receive honest communication and meaningful opportunity to be heard. My experience had taught me that superintendent evaluation cannot just happen once a year. We need regular data, clear expectations, ongoing communications, and early interventions when concerns arise. I would gain confidence in a superintendent who's transparent, accountable, collaborative, and evidence-driven, including when the decisions are very difficult. I would lose confidence with the lack if a superintendent lacks transparency, poor financial stewardship, failure to follow board policy, and persistent failure to address concerns from our school community. Ultimately, my standard is simple. Are students succeeding? Are educators supported? Are we using resources responsible? And does the community trust district leadership? It is the board's responsibility to support the superintendent to reach our benchmarks and be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Rima. Kelly will go next. Jennifer is on deck. Go ahead.
So school boards and the superintendent should function as a team, right? And so the board's job is to set goals with the superintendent at the beginning of the year and make sure that those goals are established, they're clear, they're measurable outcomes to the goals, and that we are evaluating them based on those measurements. And then, the board's job is then to let the superintendent run the day-to-day and trust that she can do that job. And the way that you hold her accountable is to those goals that you have set at the beginning of the year, and making sure that, halfway through the year that we're having check-ins and evaluations to make sure that we're going to hit those goals. Because the superintendent doing a good job is important to all of our students. And it also, says how well our board is doing as well. And so we should be working as a team. And if we're not meeting those goals for some reason, then the board should be helping our superintendent to make sure that she's being successful. And the goals that we're setting for the superintendent obviously should be collaborative, but they should be things that are going to measure the overall health of our district and not just whether individual initiatives were completed. So things that we should be measuring on are, student outcomes. So are students learning and thriving? That could include math and literacy proficiency, things around are we, closing the gaps between students, graduation and post-secondary readiness, those sorts of things, outcomes for our special needs kid and English learners. And then other things are going to be operations, right? Is our district financially and operationally stable? And we need to measure things like our fund balance and are we meeting those targets for our fund balance? And are we having the accuracy and the timeliness of financial reporting? Are we meeting our enrollment projections as well? And then, are we attracting and keeping good employees? What's our staff retention and turnover? That matters because that matters to the health of the organization. And, this is important because, in our recent history, we had a budget crisis. And, the year before, we had a superintendent who had a really highly effective rating. And so to me, that shows that the evidence is that the evaluation process was not adequately measuring the condition of the district. And a system that can satisfy the mechanics of an evaluation and still fail as an accountability tool. So beyond the metrics, what builds my confidence is that the superintendent is transparent, that she's bringing bad news early if that's happening. But overall, that we're working together as a team, and that when recommendations are brought to the board, that not only do we understand why those things are recommended, but also maybe why other things were not recommended as well.
Thank you, Kelly.
Really
I believe that's time. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the bell.
No, that was it.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Our next one will be Jennifer, and Don will be on deck. And Eli, if you can hear me, if there's a way to put that bell a little closer to your mic, I think we're getting it sometimes and not other times. So I'm afraid not everybody has the same 30-second warning. Thanks, everybody. Jennifer, when you're ready.
When I look for leadership in a school district superintendent, my expectations are high because of the great importance of the role. I expect clear, bidirectional communication with staff and the board, and clear and sufficiently comprehensive communication to parents and the local school and the local community to allow us to understand and support our public schools. Beyond communication and solid working relationships, I'm looking for high effectiveness, particularly from the superintendent's cabinet and executive level staff. Does the district have durable strength in business and finance, instructional leadership, student growth, and are we making progress toward district-wide goals? Because of the precarious financial situation, the district's new CFO, Ante Britton, has informed the board, administration, and public that school closings and consolidations, ending special programs, and selling land are all necessary steps to stabilize the district's finances. The superintendent must work with the board, staff, and community to find the best way forward for our district. I believe that staff and public engagement and shared decision-making are essential components to bringing our district to a stronger, more durable place, and that both must be rebuilt from the ground up in a contentious time. Here's the thing. The best leaders, they stand out front, they take responsibility, and behind them are strong, committed, clear-hearted people. The school board's job needs to be bigger than giving a superintendent a passing or failing grade and hiring or firing. The school board's job needs to be to work with the community to give the superintendent a clear mandate and to support them in carrying out that mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Don is next. Lyndon is on deck. Please go ahead.
Right, thank you. Effective July 1st, 2024, Michigan School Code requires districts to adopt a formal evaluation tool. AAPS adopted the MASB tool. Each board member is required by state law to also take training on the tool. It covers governance and board relations, community relations, staff relations, business and finance, instructional leadership, progress toward district-wide goals that are set by the board, and it includes student growth. 20% of the evaluation is based on growth, and in Ann Arbor Public Schools, that's an aggregation of all data from our teachers' evaluation tool. So it's kind of representative of all students and growth across the district. It requires 2 formal check-ins, but quarterly assessments and brief check-ins are actually recommended, and that's what we had implemented when I was a board member in Ann Arbor Public Schools. The tool is a thorough tool, and it provides a great way to evaluate the superintendent, but what it doesn't provide is board members that are willing to be direct with feedback. A lot of board members don't have experience providing feedback to executives, and that's exactly what this role demands. It shows up when board members are not comfortable providing direct constructive feedback, which is so imperative. While the majority of the discussion takes place in closed session, what I can say is that while the final score that is reported is a reflection of the combined scoring of all board members' feedback and what was agreed upon, it is only, I was the only board member that was willing to speak up on areas for necessary improvement to our superintendent. There is mutual respect in that process, and we can be professional in delivering feedback. We all have areas to improve, but we require that direct feedback in order to be able to grow and meet the demands of the district. It's a very tough job for our superintendent, but we need to be there to support her and give meaningful feedback along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Lyndon's turn, and John is on deck. Go ahead, Lyndon.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Lyndon Dibble, and as I mentioned before, I was a student inside of APS. I was a student inside of APS when Superintendent Swift was removed from her position, and I've been a student inside of APS until last year. So when we talk about the losing confidence in the superintendent and district leadership, I'll be honest and frank, many students, many teachers have already lost confidence in the superintendent and district leadership. These events are very important. While I was a student, I had teachers coming and complaining in front of the class about their healthcare plan, about how they don't have a contract with the district. We had a budget shortfall of $25 million, fiscal mismanagement. We have talks about programs being cut, teachers being laid off, contracts being delayed, new building projects being delayed. So it's not shocking that students across the district might not be feeling very confident in the superintendent or district leadership. And to be frank, I am not very confident, which is one of the reasons why I'm running for board. It's a shame because I want to be confident in our district's leadership, and we need to have a return to competent leadership that the community trusts. So how do we do that? We need to expand our measurements on community relationships, on teacher administration relationships, on enrollment numbers, on communication and transparency, fiscal management, oversight of the superintendent's employees directly. So that's the superintendent's cabinet and those directly under the superintendents, and student benchmarks, of course, along with many others. Superintendent Parks was recently rated an A by the current school board. By the current school board, I do not believe that an A reflects the district's performance, and so there's definitely work that needs to be done for our grading rubric. We definitely need to do work to revise our grading rubric so that her grade reflects the state of the district.
Thank you, Lyndon. John will go next. Becca is on deck. Please go ahead.
Thank you. It's John Benson. Yep, a lot of candidates have been saying, the program teacher, school employee-based benchmarking, that is not my background, but in these areas, you have to have student test score trends, student dropout and graduation rates, including looking at graduation finished with online programs versus in school, certainly in my opinion. Teacher, other direct pupil staff retention rates, satisfaction surveys, 360 reviews, and in equity metrics as well, related to both student and staff. I would, and some people have mentioned this, I would consider a sort of a community-based score or working session as well, even if it wasn't for a formal grade. I know we've been talking about formal grades, but the question is really about what we think we would do. Financially based, I would and do look at, our multi-year revenue trends. Are they trickling into our teacher salaries and our staff salaries at the same rate? If there is a disconnect there, to me, that's a flag. Similarly, anything that's outside of our core teacher direct-to-pupil spend, the other categories, especially out of our general fund, are they being ring-fenced? And in times of tight or low general fund balance, are they actually being managed each year to be slightly under revenue projections to be the first place to build balance? And that is something that I would look at. Any of these areas showing poorly, to me, would be a concern. Look, and I want to say, I'm in no way a proponent of pursuing administration staff turnover at the beginning of a board term. I am a finance professional personally. I'm concerned, AAPS parent, running to do what's right to improve process communication clarity around the finances. I want to work with the superintendent and her staff to achieve the goals, and I think the skills are there to do so. So, thank you.
Thank you, John. Becca will give her answer, and then Erin will wrap up question 1 for us tonight. Becca, go ahead.
Thanks so much. Before I launch into my plan response, I just have to say that Carolyn Siebers, your response was so good. I need to go back and re-listen to it. So I appreciate that. I appreciate what everyone said here tonight, but it was like double tap on that. The current Board of Ed evaluates the superintendent with a tool from the Michigan Association of School Boards. And what is recently this has led to is near perfect scores. So in fact, on June 3rd, 2026, the trustees completed their annual evaluation of Ms. Parks, and she received an overall score of 2.97 out of 3. And to be honest, at a time when the district is in crisis, our community morale and trust is low, it feels very confusing to have such high ratings of our top leader in this district, particularly in the area of the rubric that includes community relations and staff relations. Our district is not in a stable place right now, and benchmarks need to adjust. The tool and collection of data perhaps need to adjust. A superintendent should be evaluated based on student success metrics, staff and educator morale and retention, and community satisfaction. The evaluation should include a process of 360 reviews where our superintendent is rated and given feedback from colleagues, including large groups of educators and community members. The long-term viability of our district depends on Ms. Parks' leadership, and I truly believe in her ability to lead us. Therefore, it is critical that the board provide deep, constructive feedback that supports the development of our leader in service of the betterment of our district. So I look forward to working with Ms. Parks to help her in meeting high benchmarks. It is in all of our best interest to have her succeed in leading us to a stable place and eventually back to a thriving place. Thank you.
Thank you, Becca. Erin, it's your turn. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the question. We have many metrics on which we can judge the superintendent, but the one I'd like to focus on is the teacher and staff retention rate and the turnover rate. If our educators continue their exodus to Plymouth Canton, to Dexter, to Saline, then that indicates that there's something wrong at the top. Lyndon and I, of course, we were just kids in this district, and as kids, especially in elementary school, we had yearly teacher evaluations. We had teacher evaluations. We got, did we get high marks on math? Did we get high marks to reading? And I think what I'd like to do, I'd like to extend that system of teacher evaluations to the administration. I want to hear from rank and file teachers an honest assessment of what's going on, how they feel about what's going on at the top. I want the superintendent to be analyzed as every one of our kids are. And in terms of confidence, if I can, having lived through the Swift administration and having lived in with my school community had a very negative view of her, I'd have to say, if I could go into one of the comprehensive high schools, if I could go in a Pioneer and ask an educated kid, what is your view on the superintendent, and they wouldn't immediately start into a tirade about how all things are, then I would see that as a vote of confidence. Having lived in this district and been in this district for the past longer than 13 years, that's not exactly where we were then, and it's probably not where we are right now.
Thank you, Erin. All right, the names have been added back to the bowl of destiny, and they have been mixed up. So we are going to move on to our second question, which I will also paste into the chat, but let me read it first. Question number 2. A school board has a duty to adopt and balance the district budget. An accounting error, a budget shortfall, and unresolved teacher contract negotiations have been in the news lately. What would you do as a board member to resolve the current issues, ensure that the budget is balanced in the future, and communicate your actions to the community? The first candidate who will answer this is John, and Kelly is on deck. John, when you're ready.
Thank you for the question. Simple first steps to this would be, to me, requesting just slight request tweaks in budget presentations, including proposing some other scenarios. I've seen that the new CFO is open to that in budget study sessions, and I think that's a very good place to start a more transparent kind of feedback loop and to get some other slices visible to the public and to the board. But solving current issues is always a good thing. We need processes and reporting cultures to change, and then some of these issues would be solving themselves. More explicitly to solve currently, I would try to back solve which spend areas have added and taken from our fund balance, which is so often low. It drives much of the shortfalls and disputes or the situations outlined in the question, especially over the past 6 years. That's the span running from just before COVID to current. It's covering several of the recent major financial issues, as you've outlined, and a period of serious disconnect in our teachers' raises versus peers. It's not a difficult exercise to look at how your money flows versus all your individual contracts have been paid out over the last several years, and to see which ones have been outpacing revenue. And by the way, revenue is up 25%. If that's shared publicly, a fair discussion can begin on the next steps and better scenarios. Going forward, we must have individual contract and request for funding review processes that tie individual requests to the multi-year revenue, so it's clear if the request is going to maybe be taking or giving from our fund balance. We have to have fund balance in the back of our minds when we're talking about money of any size at any moment. This has been the biggest issue by far in the general fund, in my opinion. There's not really an attempt to tie individual reviews to the whole budget. Communication would involve creating standardized templates for any dollar requests and also be shared on the screen during public meetings. Finally, the budget reviews should have pages that show the total budget down to all the individual contracts that have been approved and see how they sum and compare to each other and how they've grown or shrunk versus revenue, spend, and teacher compensation. If everything is shared in that comparison framework, I think a lot would get resolved.
Thank you, John. Kelly is next, and Rima is on deck. Go ahead, Kelly.
So I think that, I apologize if you can hear my dogs barking in the background. So, the budget crisis didn't happen overnight, right? It's been started 10 years ago. 10 years ago, in 2014, between 2014 and 2024, and really between 2014 and 2018, we added almost 480 employees, full-time employees to our staff, and most of those were teachers. And at that same time, we had a small increase in students, but not enough probably to support that many teachers. But at that time, the district and the community was asking for smaller class sizes, so that's what happened. And then, 2020 happens, and we lose more than 1,100 students in 4 years, and staffing barely moved. And Michigan pays around $10,600 per student, so you have that money that's just going with those students permanently and not coming back. So I think part of this kind of conversation is how do we encourage students to come back, and what are the tools we have at our disposal for that to try to right size that part of the budget. And additionally, while the crisis happened in 23, it probably would have happened in 2021 if COVID, money hadn't come in and sort of balanced our budget at that time. And so then, of course, we have the budget crisis that comes in 23. And at that time, we ended our fund balance at 2%, and we were able to come up to 7%, but now we're backsliding again. And, that's an issue. And so we really need to be looking at, what are those things that are causing that? And things like, having an audit, while we do an audit every year, we need to make sure that audit's being presented to the board and that we understand, where that money is going in all those buckets. We get these presentations about kind of these general buckets, but we don't necessarily understand the breakdown at least that's not been presented to the public, and where the money's coming in each of those buckets. So that needs to happen. And then we need to honor our fund balance, right? The district has set a goal for a fund balance, and again, we're not meeting those metrics. And so I know that some really tough conversations are coming in terms of right-sizing our staffing and right-sizing our budget, and those are things that, you know, I am willing to make those really hard decisions with the public input, because it's so important to our students to have really good student outcomes. And of course, the last thing we don't have yet is a teacher contract. So we've had these budgets that have been passed this year without the teacher contract. So that, you know, it's a little bit hard to understand where the money is going to go in the future. And it's super important that we get that contract in place, you know, for our teachers and for our students. And so, you know, the last thing on communication, making sure that we're also publishing assumptions and not just totals, and so that we understand where every dollar is going in the budget in the future.
Thank you, Kelly. Rima's turn now, and Erin is on deck. Go ahead, Rima.
So, having served on the board through the budget crisis, I know balancing a budget is not simply about cutting expenses. It requires responsible planning, strong oversight, protecting classrooms, and making decisions based on data. I was proud initially when I started, stood with our teachers and staff. Within our first few months, I proudly voted for the $12 million in raises because our teachers and staff deserve a fair and competitive wage. They are the foundation of our schools and the number one priority of our budget. I also helped lead the transition in district leadership that brought greater transparency, accountability, and a clearer understanding of our financial challenges, laying the foundation of stronger oversight and better decisions. When the 2024 budget crisis emerged, I stood firm. A budget is a moral document. I voted no on rush cuts that would have harmed teachers, staff, and classrooms because we should not balance the budget on the backs of people who make our schools successful. Instead, I pushed for us to review every line item, follow the data, minimize classroom impacts, safeguard our Title I schools, and give our community a meaningful voice before major decisions. Looking ahead, I will continue to push for accurate financial reporting, multi-year forecasting, enrollment and staffing assessments and projections, scenario planning, right-sizing our district, advocacy for more state funding, and regular oversight and board oversight. And also, we need to resolve our teacher and staff contracts through good faith bargaining with fair competitive compensation they deserve. Throughout the process, we also have to be honest with our community. I will communicate what we know, what we don't know, and the options we're considering and their impact. My record shows I will not rubber stamp decisions. I will ask hard questions and move us forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Rima. Erin, it's your turn. And Jennifer, you're on deck. Go ahead, Erin.
Thank you very much. I think the underlying thing here ought to be that these decisions must be made in the public. The public must be given all the information. There must be no known unknowns, to borrow a phrase. I spoke in my opening remarks of a sort of culture of secrecy, and this sort of decision making is what I would tend to refer to. These decisions can't be made before school board meetings. They can't be made in side conversations. They have to be made in the public. They have to be made after lengthy and spirited public debate and discussion in the public, not just in the public and for the public. Me personally, what I would do if I was to be elected in November, I would ensure that I'm holding town hall meetings every month. I'm taking private meetings with students, teachers, staff members, stakeholders in the community, because I need to know how they're reacting to this sort of thing. I need to know if there's anything we could be doing better at the school board, and God knows we could be doing a lot of things better. I certainly won't be afraid to ask for help. We have a district full of I would joke, full of nerds, but full of subject matter experts who want to give us the help. They want to lend their expertise for free, not for a fee. And so I won't be afraid to ask them for help. Certainly not.
Thank you, Erin. It's time for Jennifer, and Becca is on deck. Go ahead, Jennifer.
While some people in our community are acutely aware of the school district struggles, many remain in the dark about the precarious situation. Parents and community members need to know 5 things. First, we cannot tax ourselves to pay our teachers. Second, state funding does not keep up with inflation. Third, funding does not consider a district's cost of living, and ours is high. 4, Proposition A, combined with decades of anti-tax politics, have left public schools, particularly in high cost of living areas, starving. Equalized starvation is still starving. 5, the 3 largest drivers of a Michigan school district's budget are enrollment, student to staff ratio, and staff compensation. These must be held in balance. Decades of declining funding and decision-making led by keep cuts away from the classrooms, really the students because the teachers are in the classrooms, and no layoffs have left AAPS out of balance. As more Ann Arborites understand the situation of public schools in Michigan, we can work to make greater strides toward adequate or even generous funding in cooperation with state legislators and our governor. The increases in school funding under Governor Whitmer have been helpful, yet they are insufficient to meet the pressing needs of districts like ours. Now is a crucial time to raise up the needs of public schools as we work toward a Democratic trifecta led by Jocelyn Benson. We must recognize that our investment in education requires an update and take action to ensure that our children get the education they need to contribute to the state's economy and democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Becca will go next, and then Don is on deck. Go ahead, Becca.
All right. So to resolve current issues, again, I agree with the people who talk about a budget being a moral document. We absolutely need to budget first for our most important asset and value in this community that has too long been undervalued, which is our student-facing staff. To put educators central, we'll need to cut other areas of spend. And we will need a full audit of contracts and vendors, particularly those that are the most expensive. Where can we go back and renegotiate or cut contracts? Next, we need better budgetary controls for principal transparent spending. I've worked with some smart folks who sit alongside me tonight on how we can operate in a different way moving forward to be better stewards of public funds. I want to talk about something today called outcomes-based contracting. We spend so much money on these vendors, software, technology, materials, etc., and there is absolutely no accountability for these private companies. For decades in education, the conversation has been on teacher accountability, teacher effectiveness, but with the money we give our private companies, where is their accountability? So let's look at our current vendors. What data and proof do we have that the hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of dollars we've spent has actually led to positive student outcomes? And if there's no data, if there's no proof, cut the contract or go back to renegotiate. And for better principled, transparent spending going forward, we should only be signing contracts that are actually outcomes-based. Those outcomes need to be written in the contract. And in addition, for any financial requests from the district to the board, we're going to have a standardized template for the ask, and it will be shared publicly. I've worked in government finance transparency and have experience in facilitating participatory budgeting processes. I deeply believe in centering the voices of the community, so I will work as a board member to bring the community into these processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Becca. Don is next, and Lyndon is on deck. Go ahead, Don.
All right, as an AAPS board member and treasurer, I've challenged our financial team on contracts, on budget assumptions, and various calculations. My professional background allows me to dive into each number efficiently and bring my perspective of what best practices look like for financial reporting. One great example is the $7.7 million special education shortfall that came up in December of 2025. The reasoning provided didn't make sense based on my professional experience. In early 2026, I arranged meetings with our superintendent, our finance team, the WISD superintendent, and the WISD assistant superintendent that manages the allocation of special education funding. I personally walked through the calculation to determine where we fell short on projecting our numbers correctly and developed a process for our finance team to more closely collaborate with the WISD and ensure that we don't have projections that we can't meet in subsequent years. Also, as it relates to teachers' contracts, our teachers absolutely deserve to be paid more. We need to project plans beyond the annual budget that is due to the state and show how we're going to get there. I reviewed over 23 contracts from neighboring districts in the ISD, similar districts, high-performing districts, and major metropolitan areas. The data is clear that we top out before other districts. I was disappointed in the tentative agreement that was presented to our teachers because it didn't move our district any closer to being competitive. Our longest tenured professionals are the most underpaid, and teachers don't trust the board because it hasn't developed a plan. Earlier this year, I put together a group of professional accountants and professors from the University of Michigan Ross School of Business to look at our district's financials. I wanted the data and numbers to speak for themselves and bring transparency to our situation. I can say that the superintendent and board president supported the efforts, but there wasn't enough support across the board to make this a board project. I'm looking forward to a new group of board members to continue this work and bring the data to light for all stakeholders, the administration, the board, and the union. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Lyndon will go now, and Brandon is on deck. Go ahead, Lyndon.
Yes, thank you. We must look for cost savings across the district to resolve the current budget shortfall. One way we can do this is reducing our reliance on on-screen learning. As mentioned actually by Becca, AAPS spends more than $4 million a year on software costs alone, and that does not include digital curriculum costs or hardware costs. So current research shows that on-screen learning is less effective, especially when teaching the basics. It decreases literacy rates, it harms social skills and behavior, and harms students' mental health. So reducing our reliance on edtech software and on-screen learning is both a great way to reduce costs as well as improve the quality of education within AAPS. With this saved money, we need to invest in our teachers. In terms of teacher compensation, my biggest fear is a lack of healthcare access. We need to restore the 80-20 healthcare split to our teachers, both to put money in their pocket and ensure our teachers have access to the healthcare they may need. Communicating our actions to the community has been a massive problem over the last few years. We need to be reaching out proactively. This means getting AAPS set up on all of the online social media platforms. Yes, AAPS is not on all online social media platforms in 2026. It means having board members and administrators attending school events in person to meet and answer questions from the community in a natural setting. And finally, it means moving our board meetings towards our community by placing them in our high schools and potentially even our middle schools. I think setting up more partnerships with parents and other community members willing to help the district for free or in any way would improve communication and transparency and should be something the school board looks into.
Thank you, Lyndon. Brandon and Carolyn is on deck. Go ahead, Brandon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about this. Speaking first about the trust piece before going to the financial side of things, I think community trust is only regained through complete openness and transparency. When we have broken the trust of the community, the only way forward is to put all of our cards on the table and not hide behind a belief that school funding is complicated, which it is, but make it accessible to all members of our community. In terms of the actual financial day-to-day workings, I've had the opportunity to learn school finance through negotiating contracts in the districts that I work in. And I think while there need to be cuts to come, we need to be very cognizant of the types of cuts that we are making. We need to ensure that our cuts are not coming on the backs of the most vulnerable populations, whether that's Title I students, whether that they are those receiving mental health supports, or even when looking at staffing. A lot of us tonight have talked about teachers, but there are a lot of other groups like office professionals and parapros who are really struggling with funding and contractual issues as well. The average office professional in Ann Arbor Public Schools makes $30,000 a year. Quite frankly, a budget is a statement of values, and when we choose where we are putting our money, we are telling the community what we think is important. I would advocate for a multi-year approach that is proactive rather than reactive and gives the money where it is most impactful to students, to those people in the classrooms, to the bus drivers who first see them when they enter our school day, all the way through the food service workers who help feed them so teachers like myself are able to do our jobs. We need to review every single line item in this budget and ensure that we know that every dollar is making the educational experience of our students better.
Thank you, Brandon. Carolyn will go next. And the last person to answer question 2 will be Andy. Andy, you're on deck. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Thanks. First, I want to reiterate Plant Moran's finding of a recording error, not an accounting error, and it had no impact on the shortfall or the fund balance. Declining student enrollments and rising operational costs were cited as driving the deficit. These facts did not excuse the systemic breakdown that allowed a faulty budget to pass without accounting for known expenses, nor does it explain what safeguards now exist for preventing future recurrences. Rebuilding trust requires genuine transparency, starting with reinstating the Budget Steering Committee. This standing committee brings together teachers, parents, students, administrators, city leaders, and underrepresented community voices for budget deliberations. Ann Arbor needs to adopt a new budget development process that includes oversight and control mechanisms. The Budget Committee's recommendation on a new process would be informed by input from all constituencies. Approval and dissemination will provide the community with needed clarity and participation in this important task. The unresolved teacher contract points to a deeper issue, a decade of top-down decisions that have sidelined educators, lowered morale, and alienated our community. Compensation has failed to keep pace with inflation. Healthcare costs have risen, and the district budgeted approximately $12,000 less per teacher in 2026 than in 2014. That's non-inflation adjusted dollars. A collective bargaining agreement must be reached before the school year begins. Finally, district governance needs a structural shift. Deliberation and questioning belong at full board meetings, not hidden in committees. Board meetings should center on evaluating academic, social discipline, and attendance data. Agenda time must be prioritized for gathering input on key decisions in the budget rather than sitting through lengthy presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. And Andy, go ahead.
Thanks very much. The school budget process in Michigan is a real challenge. I know some of you know that firsthand. There's a preliminary budget in June, the student count is in the fall, and there's often a budget amendment process early the following year at roughly the same time that you're starting to talk about the next year's budget. So I think thinking about multi-year approaches makes a lot of sense. It is challenging in the state of Michigan. How would I, as one board member, resolve the current issues? First and foremost, it's important that a budget solution lands with our teachers having a fair contract, which they haven't had for a long time and obviously don't have right now. But let's think about this question in a way that is in keeping with the role of a board member. Here's what I commit to. I'm going to be available. I'm going to be highly informed, and I will pay a great deal of attention. For any members of the Washington County and AAPS community who haven't dug into the recent history of how the budget crisis came into the public consciousness, I would, like Carolyn just did, recommend reading the Plant Moran report on the 2023-2024 budget variance. If I just read a couple sentences from that, it says the budget deficit is primarily due to the increased payroll costs approved by the district without the revenue to support the increase. The original budget presented was improbable without significant expenditure reductions. The obvious red flags should have been identified by management and the board, for which responsibility for the current situation is shared. That's in the past. We need to look forward. And most importantly, I would look to the superintendent and her team to have the processes and systems in place to steer our district's budget back to where it needs to be for long-term sustainability. That's how highly functional districts operate. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. We will move on to our third and final question for the evening. I will paste the question into the chat. and I'm going to read it right now. So question number 3. A school board sets district policy. What is your understanding of the board's role in setting policy? Where do you think previous boards have overstepped, fallen short, or hit the mark? The first person to answer this question will be Carolyn, and Lyndon is on deck. When you're ready, Carolyn.
Okay, thank you. Any policy that touches the daily lives of our students, teachers, and families must be made with the community, not just for it. As someone else mentioned, it's common sense that a handful of board members on their own cannot possibly have enough information or perspectives to reach comprehensive solutions. Stakeholder collaboration and decision-making builds trust, creates better policies, improves communication and implementation, and improves the cultural and contextual relevance of decisions. Policies need to work in real-world classrooms. Historically, school boards hit the mark when they ground their decisions in robust community input and transparent data, but fall short when they fail to hold administration accountable for communication breakdowns or faulty data tracking. Boards are forced into critical choices without a clear understanding of classroom needs. On the other hand, boards overstep when they attempt to keep adding new mandates without acknowledging that time and instructional energy are finite resources. A review of past financial decisions highlights some significant areas of concern. For several years after 15-16, the board approved budgets where expenditures surpassed revenues. The district's fund balance dropped to a critical level. Before approving the 2023-24 budget, there appears to have been a lack of critical oversight regarding projected surpluses, as somebody else has mentioned, particularly given the fallen enrollment and rising staff expenses. This led to the $25 million shortfall. How was a gap of this magnitude missed by both leadership and administration for 9 months? The subsequent executive turnover occurred without a clear strategy or timeline for a comprehensive natural search for a new superintendent. Districts require boards to focus on the big picture and ensure effective stakeholder collaboration. We should learn from past board actions using those insights to guide future choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Lyndon will go next, and John is on deck. Go ahead, Lyndon.
Yes, thank you. My understanding and the understanding that is in AAPS documents is that the school board sits above the superintendent's office, both in decision-making and policy-making. The board are the policymakers for the district at the end of the day. We, or I shouldn't say we, but the school board, they approve most district policy in one way or another. And importantly, board members are elected by the community. This means that the platform and the values that candidate ran on are in part the community's values, the community's beliefs, and the community's wishes for the direction of the board. This, of course, does not mean the board should act alone. The board should act with members of the community, students, teachers, parents, other outside organizations to set the direction of policy in the district for the best interest of the students and teachers within the district. In recent years, the previous school boards have missed the mark in a number of issues. Financial oversight, as was just mentioned, communication and transparency have been very poor in recent years. I think that, to me, is one of the most egregious examples of the failure of current board policy is our communication policy. It needs to be completely redone to be so we are more transparent and more communicative with our community. And some of our outside contracting policy, I believe, has also been not quite on the mark yet. We need to review our outside contracting policy, our software contract policies, to bring those costs back in line so we are not spending so much, and also to improve learning in the classroom, as I previously mentioned.
Very good. Thank you, Lyndon. Next, we have John.
Thank you.
And Andy is on deck. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Thank you. So I happened to look at this earlier this week. Ann Arbor Board lists about 200 policies online. I roughly bucketed them as one, policies acknowledging obligations around state, federal funding, other bigger than district requirements, kind of immovables, policies for district strategic vision, planning around that, policies for finance oversight, fund balance, contract reviews, assets, purchase cards, policies for functional reviews of schools, programs, graduation, teachers related, and policies for board meetings, board committees, board communications, board review of admin proposals. Its policy areas around financial oversight, schools programs, and the functional board policies that I see is the ones where you can be more actively or remold to better serve the public, students, teachers, and the community. I would focus primarily on the review of the financial oversight policies, given my background, and how any of the functional board policies could then be modified to interplay potentially to enable those better as well. Specifically, I would like to talk about the general fund balance policy. I think it's an example of part overstep, part falling short. The policy reads, district shall manage financial matters such that general fund is targeted with the following percentage ranges. And then it has fiscal year 25 through 28 listed with beginning broader ranges of acceptable fund balance, 7 to 15%, tightening to 10 to 15. There's a really good video on this from December 18th, 24, if you're a Board of Education video nerd. But having some language to just recognize some bounds and targets for finance is fine. However, this really provides no route to actually achieve increased incremental savings. It's equivalent to telling someone you should save $100 a month, when what they really might need is you should spend no more than 30% on housing and 10% on transportation, et cetera, and leaving a percent gap under 100% so that they have implied savings and a real guide on checks on where the savings are not met if they need to look back at that. I think this is exactly the kind of problem AEPS is having. There's no ring fencing on expense categories as we go, and then the things together always will grow too fast. And without monitoring and a history of that, you're left scrambling, often cutting from the biggest thing at the time, which is far too often our teachers. And also, I want to shout out Gaynor, if you're watching, give me a message. You probably know about the meeting I was just referencing. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Andy will go next, and Rima is on deck. Go ahead, Andy.
Thanks, Jessica. Setting district policy in Michigan is a rolling, ongoing responsibility of the board. It's not just that policies are made and then that's it. The policies are there for the next few years. For most districts in Michigan, there are typically 2 updates a year that include a fall policy update and a spring policy update. These ongoing updates are critically important because the legal, political, and public health scenarios that we all face can change on a dime. I think it's particularly true now that these policy rolling updates are critically important because the Trump administration has chosen to weaponize policy and not only attack the Ann Arbor Public Schools, but also attack the University of Michigan, where many of our parents work, where our students seek healthcare, and where our graduates attend. And so how does that work operationally? I think the best performing districts have a superintendent that makes sure the board has all the information they need for policy changes that may affect administrative policy within the district or instructional policy within the district. And the board also needs to work with our staff and or any outside sources that the district may use to drive the rolling policy updates. My understanding is that we do it all in-house, but I don't know for sure that that's not true. That's true, not being on the board. But in addition to the superintendent keeping us informed, we need to do our diligence as a board, as an oversight body, to make sure that the rolling updates are incorporating policy changes that are needed when the political and legal winds blow differently, and hopefully they'll be blowing differently very soon in a new administration within the time that those of us who are elected onto the board this cycle are serving. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Rima, you're next. And Becca, you're on deck. Go ahead, Rima.
So the schools board role is to set and reevaluate policy, establish priorities, provide oversight, and hold the superintendent accountable for implementing them. We should listen to students, families, teachers, staff, and the community, evaluate evidence, and understand the financial and operational impacts around these policies. The board should set the what and why, while the district professional determines the how. I believe previous boards have sometimes fallen short when decisions were being made without enough data, transparency, or community engagement. We should never rush major policies without understanding their impact, especially on our most vulnerable students. Boards can also overstep when they get involved with the day-to-day administration or individual staff decisions. That is the superintendent's role. I believe we hit the mark when we establish policies that support educators, our staff, advance student well-being, equity, accountability, and educational quality, and then measure whether those policies are working. My approach is to listen, ask hard questions, review the data, consider implementation and equity, and never rubber stamp decisions. To give you an example, we had a recent cell phone policy as a good example. I support reducing students' reliance on cell phones, but I also considered how a strong high school policy could actually be implemented and how it's going to be enforced. Our high schools are complex environments, and we must consider staffing, student needs, teacher workload, and potential disparities in discipline. I believe that we need to make the most responsible decision, but also evaluate the policy and strengthen it when data warrants it. So really, good policies about evidence, equity, clear expectations, and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Rima. Becca is next. And Jennifer is on deck. Go ahead, Becca.
All right, so currently the board sets policy in collaboration with central administration, the district staff, and I do think there should be a lot more community involvement. But right now, when a need for new policy arises, it's usually the district staff who drafts the policy, brings it before the board. There's multiple readings, of the policy, there's discussion, questions, and ask for revision. And then finally, the board can vote on the policy to adopt or not. A very specific policy that has absolutely hit the mark is 5011, which is a policy on transgender and gender nonconforming students. I'll tell you why. This policy is so extremely detailed and clear. It's based on research and best practices from various advocacy organizations. It can stand up to scrutiny and be very helpful in challenging times where, say, for instance, we're being attacked by some outside organizations. It's thoughtful and supportive of student success and makes me extremely proud of this district and the way that they crafted this policy. Now, a policy that's on track right now, but only because of significant community feedback, is a policy around purchasing and spending thresholds, which are referenced in both policies 2120 and 3050. This spring, district staff brought up this policy for revision to the board. They actually wanted to change the spending threshold needing approval from the board from $100,000 to $250,000. And that would mean any contract the district wanted to purchase under $25,000 wouldn't even need board approval. But fortunately, many members of the community were paying attention and came out and said, whoa, hold on, we're in a crisis financially and we cannot do this. So board members actually listened, heard, and went back to the district to bring that number back down to 100,000. Now, a policy that hasn't yet been decided on but is on track to be an overstep is the policy around AI. The crafting of this policy has already taken up district dollars and resources and been delegated to a small, significant group of staff and students. The related policies have actually already, before board approval, been shared at state conferences, and they're listed on the state's AI task force website as a district exemplar before even coming before the board. So particularly at a time when the community members are highly concerned about technology and the dangers of AI, it would be inappropriate for the district and an overstep for the board to move forward with this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Becca. Jennifer is next, and Don is on deck. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I want to say, firstly, I agree with Becca about the AI policy. The board sets district policy by accepting, rejecting, or amending policy proposals brought forward by administrators and by directing the superintendent to create new policies. I believe it is the board's job to check every proposed policy against the mission of the district, as well as the objectives, parameters, and beliefs laid out in Policy 2000. I understand that necessity may require choosing a policy because of its practicality or affordability. Nonetheless, the board must still probe, does this policy support excellence in education? Does it support the mission to ensure each student realizes their aspirations while advancing the common good by creating a world-class system of innovative teaching and learning? If we do not check every policy decision against the mission, we will miss opportunities to build toward our shared goals. As we navigate hard times, we must return again and again to the goal. The darkest times are when we need the most clarity on the aspirations that bring us together. The cell phone policy came before the board because the state has required districts to set policy before school begins. In a 4-3 vote at 11 p.m. last night, the board elected an instructional time only ban on cell phones in the high schools. The administration shared the proposed policy, regulations, and informational poster with trustees. Confusion over what parts they were actually voting on ensued. The proposed policy did not clearly state the policy choice of banning cell phones during instructional time only and allowing them during passing and lunch. This information had to be added before the vote. The cell phone policy significantly touches the experience of every high school student and every high school staff member. I believe this decision warranted more information gathering, particularly teacher perspectives, and more careful consideration than it received at this deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Don is now, and Aaron is on deck. Go ahead, Don.
Thank you. The board's role is to set policies that sit at the 20,000-foot view of district operations. The board should not be in the details of execution, but should be working collaboratively with administration, teachers, and just importantly, families in determining what policies need to be set, revamped, and adjusted. Policy should set the guardrails for the administration and teachers to then execute based on their professional experience. I think the board has operated under a status quo for far too long. Again, it takes the support of at least four board members to bring about action, which is what makes policy difficult to enact when it's not required or mandated. A good example is the cell phone policy. I was part of the governance committee in 2025 when we brought that policy to the committee to discuss in late summer. I thought it was going to be an easy win to develop a strong yet flexible policy that would support our educators and provide comfort to our families. There wasn't enough board support to move it forward, so the board policy took yet another year to be brought back to the table for a vote last night after it became a state mandate. We need to be proactive. I do think a number of policies are also out of date or should be enhanced to support best practices as the board continues to push out the renewal of many policies year after year. What I will say, though, is we need new board members that are willing to dig into policy and refine it as needed. I work with various corporate, government, and nonprofit organizations to establish and optimize policies in order to allow efficient and effective operations while mitigating risk. So I enjoy this work greatly, and I would love to be a part of the policy discussion at the board table again. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Aaron, it's your turn, and Kelly will be on deck. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well,
Give us 1 second. That's
not me, right?
the Zoom timer. There we go. You're all reset. Go ahead, Aaron. Sorry about that.
Well, thank you. You know, as they taught me at Pat and Gill, the board functions like the Congress. They are the legislative branch, and the superintendent is the executive. The board sets the policy. These policies have to be kept up with current research, and the superintendent's job and the administration job is to implement. You know, when it comes to board and setting policy, everything has to remain current with updated research. We need to ensure that the kids are given a clear, focused, and achievable sort of academic goal. I think when it comes to overstepping, I would certainly, you know, I think this is I think most of us will agree on this one. I think the board overstepped in purchasing the new administration building by Domino's Farms for $17 million of bond money as we approached a looming financial crisis, and certain people may have known more than others. I think the board has always fallen short, certainly in my lifetime, when it comes to transparency. Decisions have to be made in the public. Decisions must be made with with the sense that the public is able to give their input and let us know, let the board know when things are going wrong. We're trying to get things back on track, and there's a clear divide and trust not only between admin and the public, but between admin and the staff, and even admin and the school board. So I guess the another thing is the board ought to talk a little less and listen a little more. I think listening ears is something our teachers oftentimes. That's what we're reminded of in school, and we hear about it sometimes in debates. And I think with times as precarious as this, with the community as discombobulated as it is, with the situation as bad as it is, let's turn on our listening ears and let's try to find the best solution and not assume that we already have that knowledge.
Thank you, Aaron. Kelly will go now, and Brandon is on deck for the last response to question number 3. Kelly, go ahead.
Thank you. So in terms of policy, I mean, the board has real 3 tools, right? Or has 3 real tools. We hire and evaluate the superintendent as one employee, adopt a budget, and then set and adopt policies that are brought forward. And policy is where we set kind of the what and the why and leave the how to the administration. And it's the one thing that we do that outlasts us. And it's the thing that we do that holds us accountable as well. The category that I think we need to pay close attention to right now in the immediate future is the policies that govern the board itself. Things like the fund balance floor, public participation rules, how we evaluate the superintendent. And, more recently that will be coming up is how we evaluate teachers. Effective governance, well, it's not really a punchy word. It's so important because it directly relates to student achievement outcomes. I think that where previous boards have hit the mark, January 2025, this board revised policy 3210, which was the fund balance policy. It set a floor that ramps 7%, then 8%, then 9%, 10% from 2027 on. And that's what policy is for. The 2024 crisis happened partly because there were no written guardrails on reserves, and the board wrote one in, other than the state mandated 5%. And so it's a good policy. However, where it falls short, though, and where it's falling short, is that it hasn't been followed. Last year's budget landed at 6.5% against an 8% floor. This year's budget projects 5% against a 9% floor. And so $12 million under, and this was adopted 7-0. Now I know that projected budgets can be in flux, but we still need to be asking those questions. And the board voted past its own policy twice. So I think that a board tightening the rules on its own accountability and following its own policies, deserves scrutiny, and it's really important. I also want to echo what Andy said about the national politics and how that can land directly on the board, and how it is important that we're paying attention, because that can affect things that schools may need to do and may need to do quickly for policy. Federal immigration enforcement changes, we need protocols for our buildings. If Title X interpretation shifts, we need to decide how we're going to protect our students and so forth. And so that is another thing that is really important right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. And Brandon, go ahead.
When I think about what decides what types of policies the board is going to pass, they're really in charge of a couple things. They need to create the vision for the district as a whole. They need to set the expectations for both students and staff. They need to ensure legal and fiscal compliance with everything that both the state government as well as the federal government are throwing at them. And then they need to bring the community's values into the school district. All of the policies that are passed need to fit into those boxes. When we have evidence-based practices and evidence-based policies that fit into those guidelines, that's when we see a really effective board that is hitting the mark. A number of us have talked about the how. When boards start dealing with the day-to-day implementation of their own policies, that's when there is a huge overstep. First of all, this should be headed off by creating policies that actually are applicable to a classroom. I cannot count the amount of times that a board has passed policies that just don't work in practice. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to get everything right, which brings me to the next point. Boards need to be willing and excited to review their own policies regularly. You don't set a policy and forget it and move on to the next thing. Within a year of every policy, we should be going back and seeing what was the impact of these policies that we passed, both positive or negative. We are consistently asking our teachers and students to improve and review themselves and their own learning. Boards should be willing to do the same thing. We should be approaching it with a growth mindset of how can we be better next time? How can we continue to be better for our students and staff? And constantly trying to create policies that lead to better educational outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you to the candidates for answering those 3 questions. We are now going to move into the final portion, which is closing statements. We've become accustomed to hearing 2-minute answers, so this is going to feel very fast as we move into closing statements with 1 minute for each of you to answer. I am going to randomly select, of course, the candidates, the order they will go in, and then we will wrap up our meeting for tonight. So our first closing statement will be presented by Brandon, and Jennifer is on deck. Brandon, go ahead.
As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a parent, a teacher, and an advocate. I want to bring those perspectives to the board. I want to help make Ann Arbor Public Schools the district that I know it can be. I want to help the teachers have the contract that they deserve while still maintaining a fund balance that protects all learners. Not only that, but I want to help bring the fight to Lansing as well. I will not be a board member who sits idly by and lets legislation and budgets pass that continue to make our job more and more difficult. I will fight for every single member of our community, whether they are a teacher, a student, a parent, a parapro, a member of our office professional staff. Yes, Proposal A has hamstrung us. Yes, the state of Michigan has made our job difficult, but it's not impossible. We have a great opportunity here in Ann Arbor to turn over the board and make a wonderful future for the students and staff of Ann Arbor Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Jennifer, your closing statement, followed by Rima.
Democrats, the school board you endorse will most likely be the board that sets the Ann Arbor School District's culture and trajectory through the significant restructuring that the current fiscal situation requires. The culture built in our public schools determines the culture in our community as the students become the adults. There is a real opportunity here for cultural shifts from secrecy to transparency, from top-down decision-making to collaboration, and from isolation back to community. These cultural shifts are all necessary for a vibrant and diverse democracy. Please vote with care and vote for the priorities that you believe will guide us to once again be a strong, unified district where the community, administration, board, and teachers are all working together for excellence in education. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Rima, it's your turn. Aaron, you're on deck.
So I'm running for re-election because I believe every student deserves a strong public school, every educator deserves support and respect, and every family deserves a voice. I believe that my lived and professional experiences are critical to be on this board. I'm honored to earn the support of elected leaders at the federal, state, and local levels, the Ann Arbor Education Association, U of M and EMU College Democrats, and many community leaders and organizations. I'm also grateful to know many of you through my service as a trustee and leadership within the party. But endorsements don't make a campaign, people do. I'm asking for your vote and your trust to continue fighting for equity, transparency, student success, and our educators and staff. I would be honored to earn the support of every one of you and the Washtenaw County Democratic Party. Together, we can keep moving AAPS forward. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Rima. Aaron, your closing statement. Kelly, you're on deck.
I think it is the greatest possible a great compliment to the 13 years worth of Ann Arbor Public Schools teachers and educators that I am here, thanks to their efforts, making this serious bid for important public office, and I thank them. I thank the Ann Arbor Education Association for getting behind me and taking a chance on me, this wide-eyed little kid who once fought to have the Filipino flag put up in the cafeteria at Pattengill so he could feel represented too. This is a great district. We may be going through tough times now. We may be staring down the prospect of losing even more kids and 8 months without a teacher's contract. And let me tell you, things can only get better from here. And I want to do my best to ensure that the world-class education that I inherited will be not just a gift, but a fulfilled birthright for all of our kids. I want our kids to get better than I got, and I got a hell of an experience. So thank you very much for putting this together, and let's go win.
Thank you, Aaron. Kelly, your closing statement, followed by Don.
As I said before, I'm a mom of 3 in the district with 3 young children. I'm a PTO volunteer at my children's schools and a pediatric nurse practitioner. You know, I didn't come to this because I have larger political aspirations. I came because I wanted to continue serving children and their families. I'm a parent who's just stepping up to do the hard work for this district, and it's a purpose bigger than myself. I think we need to improve the culture of the board and increase transparency, accountability, and trust. The budget shortfall, the enrollment decline, teachers working without a contract. People sometimes talk about these as separate problems, but I don't think they are. I think they trace back to the same thing, how decisions get made in this district. I'm not promising anyone I can fix our funding formula, but I'll promise that I will ask the hard questions, the uncomfortable questions, listen to everyone, and bring my skills as a healthcare provider, working inside large systems, putting the child and putting our children and family at the center, and listening to everyone as we go through this process. So please reach out to me if you want to know more about me or have any questions. I know that you as voters have a very hard job and an important job of electing the next team of board members because that's what the board should be. And most importantly, the board should function as a team and putting aside any personal differences to do the hard work for this district. So I'd be grateful for your support in the election, and thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Don, your closing statement. Andy, you're on deck.
I'm Don Wilkerson, and I'm running for the 2-year seat. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening and share a little bit about myself and my background. The strategic plan that's being executed, the financial challenges, and navigating tough choices is what lies in store for this new board. We need experienced individuals who have been working hard within our district and have experience to support these initiatives to right the ship and ensure that our students are supported, our teachers receive competitive wages they deserve, and we continue to be a highly sought after school. I'm proud of the work I did on the board over the last 1.5 years as a trustee and treasurer, and I'm looking to continue my work. I want to bring my financial and governance expertise to the table and help lead the district through the coming months and challenges through collaboration, communication, accountability, and analysis. You can visit votedonwilkerson.com for more information, and I look forward to seeing everyone on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Andy, your closing statement. John, you're on deck.
Thanks, Jessica. Each member of the Washtenaw County Dems will have 5 votes in this endorsement meeting on Saturday. As a teacher's kid and public school graduate, as someone who has volunteered within AAPS classrooms and coached freshman basketball at Skyline High School, and as an AAPS parent, I'm asking for just one of those votes, and I pledge that I will have a thriving public school district at the heart of all my work on the board. What most directly impacts student achievement is not board dynamics, but instead is building level and teaching team level practices. You want great instructional principals, great teaching teams, and a board that understands that student learning and improvements of student learning are the most important things the district does. This underlines why we need to get our teachers the best contract we can. And I pledge to do that to the best of my ability on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. John, your closing statement, followed by Becca. Go ahead, John.
First, thank you to Washtenaw Democrats for hosting this. I look forward to Saturday's endorsement meeting. Again, I'm John Benson. I'm running for the 2-year partial slot. I am personally invested. I have 3 young kids, 2 in AAPS this coming year. My wife's a teacher. I have been endorsed proudly by Ann Arbor Education Association, the teacher union. I'm an unwavering supporter of inclusion and diversity. Relentless inclusive spirit is the backbone of our country and the Democratic Party, in my opinion. I have extensive background in total budget and spend review, finance controls, governance, and collaborating across wide arrays of stakeholders. This may be the single most important skill set our school board needs right now. I'm also an expert in technology evaluation training, young professionals in technology, but I do think we've deployed tech far too quickly, far too costly in AAPS. These skills and my integrity and work ethic are ready to serve the kids of Ann Arbor Public Schools, the public, and the teachers. I thank you.
Thank you, John. Becca, your closing statement, followed by Carolyn.
In closing, I'd like to share a statement from the teachers union in support of my endorsement. As the parent of 3 children in Ann Arbor Public Schools, Becca Hogan understands firsthand the opportunities and challenges facing our students, families, and educators. A dedicated PTO volunteer and member of the PTO Council Board, she has worked to strengthen partnerships between students, schools, and families, promote equity across the district, and ensure that every student has access to the support they need to succeed. Becca's commitment to public education extends beyond our district. She's advocated for increased funding for Michigan's public schools through the Invest in My Kids ballot initiative and has worked alongside education advocates across the state to advance policies that create greater opportunities for all students. Her lifelong dedication to public service and education has made her a trusted voice for families in public schools. So I'm honored to have this endorsement, but it isn't about me. Our teachers do not have a contract and haven't had a contract for 224 days. We are building a movement to ensure this type of crisis never happens again. We're going to value our educators, practice principled, transparent spending, and strengthen our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Becca. Carolyn, your closing statement, and then our last closing statement for tonight will be from Lyndon. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Thank you. I want to thank the Washtenaw County Democrats for this excellent forum, and Eli and Jessica, and I have really learned a lot, and I've appreciated everything that people have to say. But I leave you with this conclusion. School boards are elected by the public to represent the interests and voices of the public. That role requires boards to listen openly and report openly to the public on all important matters. It's that simple, and that is my approach. Together, we need to look at student academic achievement and reverse the downward trend. It's common sense. Together, we need to support teachers, give them the respect and resources to do their jobs. Together, we must understand the district's financial crisis and find ways to restore the district to firm financial footing. I am Carolyn Siebers. As a retired public school teacher, principal, mathematics consultant, and researcher, I believe I bring a unique perspective of how systems work. And I'm asking for your support to achieve these important goals for our Ann Arbor community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. And Lyndon, you have the last word.
Thank all the candidates here for attending tonight, and thank you, Washtenaw County Democrats, for setting up this meeting. I'm Lyndon Dibble. I'm a product of AAPS schools, and I know firsthand what students need to succeed today. I'm running to support our teachers by restoring the 80-20 healthcare split. I'm running to support our students by reducing our reliance on on-screen learning. And I'm running to support our community by improving transparency and communication from district leadership. I will work with my fellow board members so we can govern in an effective and efficient manner. And I look forward to reaching out to students, teachers, and parents district-wide to ensure community voice is heard in board decisions. We value diversity in all our decisions, and that diversity should be reflected on the board. Public schools are here to educate our students, and we must always place our students first. Thank you.
Thank you, Lyndon. I want to thank all of our candidates for participating tonight and for stepping up to do the important work of leading our schools. I did receive a request in the chat to remind everyone of which candidates are running for which seats. The 9 candidates who are seeking the 4-year term are Lyndon Dibble, Becca Hogan, Rima Mohammed, Jennifer Oldham, Aaron Puno, Carolyn Siebers, Brandon Smith, Andy Spencer, and Kelly Ellis. You may vote for up to 4 of these people. The 3 candidates who are seeking the partial term ending in December 2028 are Don Wilkerson, John Benson, and Kevin Hudson. You may vote for one of these people. I also want to remind everyone of 2 important dates. WCDP's nominating meeting will be held this Saturday, August 15th, for folks who are Michigan Democratic Party members on or before July 16th and who register for the meeting. The details are available online at washtenaw-dems.org, and I have put that address into the chat. Another important date, of course, is Election Day on November 3rd, 2026. School board candidates will appear in the nonpartisan section of the ballot, which often appears on the backside. So don't forget to flip over your ballot and take a look in the nonpartisan section. We hope that tonight has provided everyone with the information they need to make those selections. And again, tonight's recording will be available tomorrow afternoon or so by following the link at the washtenaw-dems.org website or by searching WCDP Candidate Panel on YouTube. And so to conclude, I would like to thank again WCDP for making this opportunity to learn about the candidates possible. I want to thank everyone who logged in tonight to learn about the candidates and issues. We hope you will go into your community and talk to your family and friends about what you learned tonight. And thank you again to the candidates, of course, for your preparation, your civility tonight, and your willingness to serve in this very important role. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night and thank you.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.